Okay, good morning everyone. Thank you for the invitation to be here and share this with you. Hari mentioned that every time ILNFS numbers come up, they take a bio break. I did one myself. Okay, amazing numbers, Mr. Raj. You're going to see, like Hari mentioned, I think you're going to see a hell of a lot of alignment because we are all part of the same I don't know whether part of the problem or part of the solution, but nonetheless, I think, but before I get into my presentation, there are 2 or 3 things that probably I'd like to take off from Hari, your slides initially. When we are saying that the training providers are getting squeezed on either end, the fact of the matter is, if one looks at it at this moment, training providers, which is the supply side, are the only people who have jumped into this. Okay, and there's no one else. So technically speaking, okay, training providers are being made the fall guy. And training providers are then being expected to solve all the problems. All of us are doing a hell of a lot of training. I'm going to end up training about 11,000 this year. Bottom of the pyramid as well as urban. And that's fine. In the urban markets, you have jobs. What about district and below district level? And you expect training companies to go and create jobs? Okay, so we can skill, we can train, but essentially creating that infrastructure, that's one issue. The other is, I think today all of us suffer from this, and I've been saying it for the last 2-3 years, is at this moment it still continues to be a supply side solution. It's still not a demand side, and that's what will make it very robust. So sector skills, industry getting into it. And third, I think it's also important for us to sort of step back and say, what prism are we going to use to take a look at this? Are we going to use the prism of a social scientist, okay, and therefore address the core issues? Or are we going to just look at running this as a training business, okay, and just doing P into Q, volumes into price? Okay, are we going to take a higher orbit on this? Okay, so that's all I had to say. Getting quickly into my presentation, Career Launch has been around for 16 years, and we've got about 60,000 students. But Career Launch's vocational practice is only 3 years old, so I'm just as young or just as old as anyone else here. Okay. Hari mentioned this, so essentially I just want to put a little bit more meat around these two. Essentially 3 models: B2C, which is, we also call it the retail model, which is very much like Career Launch's model, or for anyone else. Student comes, pays cash upfront and goes into the program. Okay, so retail business model, completely cash based, very nice for everyone who wants to get into this business. The B2B, which is bespoke, customized, okay, and this is in a sense far more robust, okay, at least from a 30,000 feet level, but there are challenges, and only would know some of those challenges, okay. There are challenges there as well, but very demand based, so that's the good thing about it, okay. And B2G, and I know lots of us have made choices B2G or B2C, and it's always been B2C and B2B or B2G, and B2G has been kept in a separate box. I've been running B2G, and we started Vocational with the B2G models, and as a businessman, okay, this is also very exciting, and I don't think this should be written off as yet, definitely not, okay. So when we talked about, I was looking at some of the questions that were thrown up when I got this invite, and so you said this revenue and scale, and to me both are very important, and those are the multipliers. Revenue into scale gives you the business model sustainability. I'm saying that these are some of the revenue drivers, and one revenue driver which is amazing, and it also emerges from one problem that I see. You know, the problem is that many of our learners and students who get into the classroom simply have very low motivation to learn and train, okay? And that is because of the return on investment, or what I would call return on education. And Varun mentioned it as well. You know, you go to industry and HR managers tell you, this is the job, I'm okay, 10th standard ka bhi chalega, 12th ka bhi chalega, graduate bhi chalega. And finally, for the same job, at the same salary, he takes an MBA. Okay, same price, more education. Okay, same price, more MBA. And that's preposterous. That's going to make mincemeat. Why is anyone going to invest in training and skilling himself or herself up? Okay, so, but we've realized that two things that really work. Okay, and these work for Career Launcher, these work for me, is quick turnaround. Okay, so we are not looking at making these guys rocket scientists or quasi-MBAs. Okay, we are looking at, just like Murali mentioned, task-based, quick in, quick out, 10-day programs, 12-day programs, 1 month, 30 days programs, because you also have learner challenges. Okay, when we started off, we actually ended up paying some students to come back and sit in the classroom every day. It can get that hairy. Okay, and extremely employment linked. Okay, very, very tightly linked to employment, which means extremely high visibility, that post this program, you're going to get the job. Okay. Oh, sorry. Some of the skill drivers that we've thought that have probably worked for us, variety of courses, because at the bottom of the pyramid, there is multi-skilling. Okay, I'm not used to this, 3 minutes, okay. Multi-skilling for the target audience, and obviously employment, skill drivers, instructors, obviously. I think that's very important when you're trying to scale, okay. And partnerships, we've noticed that the vocational, the skill training business, and this entire ecosystem has to be done with partners. I mean, you cannot go it alone, really. I think that's the learning for all of us, really, okay. So, we had some stakeholders and a number of stakeholders, including the social structures that the learner goes back to, okay, after the class, or where he or she lives, and peer group and so on and so forth, key beneficiaries. There's a lot of stakeholders. We are saying intermediaries are just as important here. Those who would do funding, entrepreneurship development, and some of the other things which are not spoken about. But like I said, we must talk about a solution, not just training. Training is not the panacea for all, for the issue, really. Okay. So we've had one ecosystem that we have been working with colleges, working with and with industry, and putting a model in place, very tightly linked with all three of them. Okay. In terms of revenues, I'll get into revenues really. This is where it is. You know, the higher the skills of sophistication, and therefore I think enhancement propensity is far higher. And these are some of the skill maps which change industry to industry. And like I said, the larger the triangle at the bottom, you know, every industry differs in the shape. Okay, so this is how it goes, and construction would be much larger, and so on and so forth. One other, volumes, and I think for most people we've also been talking about trade-offs, volume versus price and things like that. All I'm saying is that we sort of also figured out that there are actually two core things, one enmeshed in the other, and one is livelihood training, okay, and the other is enhancement training. So if you're doing IT skills, someone's going for SAP or ERP or something, that is enhancement training. And I'm saying that's at the top of the pyramid. And I'm saying, so if you take a social scientist approach, you should probably be focusing also on livelihood training, which is the central part of the piece, okay. This is a model that we propagate inside Career Launcher, okay, ensuring the entire 4C, and therefore there is a revenue value chain across all these four tasks or opportunities that we do, and this is what it is. So every bit, every box here is a revenue opportunity. Searching, assessments, we do a hire and train or a train and hire, whichever you may put it, deploy, HR maintenance, and also manage those people that you do for, okay. I think there are a number of revenue orbits as well. You know, some are the primary revenue orbits, which is the training company, okay? But there are also revenue orbits for others who are supplying curriculum, someone who's doing assessment, third-party assessment, someone who's coming from the outside and just doing the testing bit, the last mile testing, someone coming in and just giving consultancy. Or there's another one who just comes and supplies the raw talent, which is recruitment kind of, or search and hire inputs into the program, okay? So I think the number of orbits really exist, and so we've done some of these ourselves, or most of these ourselves. I think some of the operating challenges, and this is a little digression from what we've been saying, but you know, skill saturation, TA saturation. I have a place, you set up a training center in a small location, and you end up doing DTP operators, and you say that after a year, almost the entire village is a DTP operator, okay? So that has challenges of its own. Skill saturation, target audience saturation. I think migration and out of control, the aspirations that you spoke of, okay? Once they are trained, they think cat's whiskers. So really, you know, we've had those same problems. They think they want 35,000 rupees jobs and get into an air-conditioned classroom, workplace, and so on and so forth, okay? I think this is important. I think I go around telling everyone that this is a long-term business, and this is a social infrastructure business, and by definition, null hypothesis, social infrastructure, jab bolte hain, that it's going to take time, okay, and you need to keep chipping away at it, okay. There are a number of things, we can spend a little time offline on this, but we've been through all of this. We've had very, very steep learning curves over the last 3 years, because we do B2G, B2B, B2C as well, all three. Secret sauce, this sounds like a prescription, but you know, I know the risk of this, but partnerships, asset light business modeling, low OPEX, I think that's very, very critical. You mentioned it, okay. And mixed flexible business modeling. I don't know how many times with a particular customer I would have changed the training, or the number of days, or the outcomes, or what we are going to measure in the training, and therefore the pricing as well, okay. So that's, I think 30,000 feet clarity we have, at least at Career Launcher, is it needs to be inclusive, must be outcomes focused, and lots of partnership centric. The entire model needs to be very partnership centric. And finally, I think this is the final, when we go back home at night, we say that it's very, very important that employment, we can't stop at employability. Employment must be guaranteed. Otherwise, you're not going to, this business is not going to take off. Okay, that's all I had to say. Thank you so much.